Before we get into this one, if you're new here, this channel breaks down the real story behind the numbers in women's basketball. Not the hot takes, not the hype, the actual facts, explained simply. If that's your thing, hit subscribe and drop a comment when you're done, because I read every single one and it genuinely helps this channel grow. Now, let's get into tonight's story, because there is a lot going on with this game. 6 points, 1 for 7 shooting, 21 minutes and 45 seconds on the floor, a season low. That was Caitlin Clark's last game against the Portland Fire. Now Indiana's about to play them again, and Vegas wants you to believe this game is basically a lock. It's not. We need to talk about why. Friday night, Moda Center, 10 p.m. Eastern. Indiana Fever, 18 wins and 10 losses, on the road against a Portland Fire team that's struggling at 11-17. On the surface, this is exactly the kind of game a good team is supposed to handle without much drama. A winning record against a losing one, a top team on the road against a bottom-half opponent that's been fighting an uphill battle most of the season. Vegas has Indiana as a 7.5-point favorite, priced at -120, with the money line sitting at -325. The total for the game is set at 187.5 points. On paper, that spread tells you the sportsbooks expect a comfortable Indiana win. But here's the problem. That number is low. Too low if you actually look at how this same matchup has played out already this season. Earlier this year, with a healthy Caitlin Clark and a healthy Aliyah Boston on the floor, Indiana was an 11.5-point favorite in this exact building. That's a 4-point swing in the spread. Something changed between then and now. And it's not because Portland suddenly got better. Here's what changed: the injury report. Both Clark and Boston are carrying probable tags heading into Friday's game. That's not a questionable tag, and it's not an out, but it's enough to move a betting line, and it clearly has. Clark leads Indiana in assists per game and is the team's highest usage player on offense, meaning more of Indiana's possessions run through her than through anyone else on the roster. Boston, meanwhile, is Indiana's leading rebounder and their third leading scorer. When two players carrying that kind of offensive and rebounding weight both show up on an injury report, even with a probable designation, the betting market reacts. That reaction is very likely the reason this line dropped a full 4 points from where it sat earlier in the season. And then there's the history between these two teams, which makes the injury question even more relevant. Indiana has already played Portland twice this year. Clark played in one of those 2 games, and by her own season standards, it was arguably her worst outing of the entire year. 6 points. 1 made shot on 7 attempts from the field. A season low in minutes played, at just 21 minutes and 45 seconds. Indiana lost that game outright, 100-84, at home. The other meeting between these two teams went very differently, and Clark wasn't even on the floor for it. Indiana blew Portland out on that occasion, winning 90-73 without their star point guard playing at all. So somehow, Indiana's best result against Portland this season came with Hute, its best player, and its worst result came with her. That's the number nobody's talking about heading into Friday, and it's exactly the kind of split that makes a probable tag on Clark matter a lot more than it normally would. There's also something happening off the court this week that's putting extra eyes on this specific game. Indiana fans and media are calling it Sophie Night. It centers on Fever guard Sophie Cunningham, who recently made public comments about transgender participation in women's sports, saying there are young girls in sport who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Those comments drew significant national attention in the days following, with commentary running in both directions across sports and political media. Reporting ahead of Friday's game indicates that both Protect Women in Sports advocates and LGBTQ advocacy groups are expected to demonstrate outside the arena, one side showing up in support of Cunningham's comments, the other in opposition to them. Cunningham and Clark are widely considered 2 of the most popular and recognizable players in the entire league right now, which is a big part of why this particular road game against a team with a losing record is drawing attention well beyond the usual basketball audience. This isn't a basketball story on its own, and we're not here to litigate the underlying issue or tell you which side is right. But it is part of the atmosphere Indiana is walking into on Friday night, layered on top of an already shorthanded injury report, and it's worth understanding why this specific matchup has more eyes on it than a typical Fever road game against a sub.500 opponent. So where does all of this leave the actual betting line and the actual basketball? Portland is dealing with its own absence heading into Friday. The Fire are missing sharpshooting guard Sarah Ashley Barker, a real loss for a team that already needs every reliable shooter it can find. On the surface, that should make Friday an easier night for Indiana. One fewer weapon for Portland to lean on against a team that's already shown it can be vulnerable to a hot shooting night from the other side. But probable does not mean guaranteed to play at full strength, and it doesn't tell you how many minutes a player will actually see or how sharp they'll look if they are out there. Clark's own track record against this specific opponent says the matchup hasn't been kind to her even when she's been completely healthy. Her 6-point game against Portland is still the worst offensive performance of her season. If either Clark or Boston is even slightly limited on Friday, a 7.5-point line could turn into a real problem for a Fever team that has already dropped one game to this exact opponent. That's the tension heading into Friday night. A favorite that looks bigger on paper. A comfortable, ordinary road win over a struggling